Kelly from Planetary Coven, and I am inviting you to learn Logic Pro X with me. Today, we are learning how to customize drum tracks. There are some excellent features that Logic Pro X has for newbie people to music production to MIDI whizzes. And we're going to go through a few of those today. Now, Logic is a pretty robust program, so I want to keep this video nice and short and accessible. So we're not going to go through all of the various options, but rather a few top features that you can use to really help bring life into your drum tracks and make them your own. So let's dive in. I've opened up this session in here. We have our 8-bar loop ready to go. Just as a reminder, it's this loop, this little circular arrow up here. You click that for your loop. It'll automatically go to 4, but you can go ahead and drag it to 8. That's what we're going to be working with today. Okay, now we automatically start with our software instrument, but the first thing I want to dive into today is actually our session players. This is a really great feature for people who are trying to brainstorm, be a little bit creative, or just want some really cool sounding drums. And we're going to dive into a few ways to customize that further. So let's click our new session player track. And as you can see, we have drummer, but also bass player and keyboard player as well. So keep that in mind if you're building out a full song with, more instrumentation than just drums. That's a great option if you don't feel super comfortable with that. So let's start with our session drummer. Here we go. Now, synth pop, before we go to the next one, synth pop just happened to be the last one that I used. So when I was creating this track, it automatically went to that. I think generally it will come up with pop rock, which is an acoustic drum kit. If that's not your jam, there's a few ways that we can change that. So let's do that here in our session player menu. If I click this synth pop here, I can actually choose from a bunch of different styles and genres of music. So this is what's clicked, but I also have everything from modern 80s to big room EDM and dubstep. I could also, if I wanted to, click that and we have everything from our acoustic drummer to percussionist. Let's stick with our electronic drummer for now. So before we move any further, I want to point out the first way that we can customize this. We can stick with our Hollywood Haze sound, or we can go over to the left here and we have a whole list, a whole menu of electronic drum kit sounds in our library. So let's listen to it first on Hollywood Haze and then see what we think if we want to try something different. Here we go. Okay, let's listen to that with spaced out. So do you hear how it's a similar pattern, but it's using different instruments because we're on a different kit? Now let's go down to our session player and customize this spaced out sound. I like this kit, so we're going to play around with it a bit further. It's feeling a bit intense, so I'm going to pull down this dial. Intensity and complexity are going to be ways that we can customize this beat a bit further. Intensity is going to be essentially like volume, whether you want it to be really loud and present or a little bit soft and understated. And complexity is going to be how busy it is. Logic used to have a quadrant in this section where you could, pull it that way. They've just split it instead of a quadrant into these 2 dials. So if you've done the update, that's essentially what we're doing here. So let's listen to that adjustment. a little too quiet. I'm going to bring it up a bit. Excellent. Now, let's say I wasn't the hugest fan of that ending there. I might pull down the fill amount and complexity. Yet again, another way that we can customize this. If we wanted to, we could add some swing as well, which is going to make it, a little bit more natural, a little bit more laid back sounding. But I'm wanting this to be pretty straight on the beat. So we're not going to mess around with swing today. But just know that that's an option if you so choose. Here we go. That didn't really do what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to Command Z to undo that and bring that fill amount and fill complexity back to where it was. I'm going to try a different way to customize it. By right-clicking, bringing up this menu, I'm going to convert it to a MIDI region. Watch this magic. We've just converted it to MIDI. So now we can go in. We have our whole list of instruments over here that is going to shift depending on what kit we use. But in the spaced out kit, this is what we've got. Now, this ending is what felt a little funky to me. So I'm going to unloop this so we can just listen to this end. It's like that robotic sound I really don't like. Where is that? Pardon me. I'm going to bring up my musical typing so you can see what I'm doing. All right, what is this? What is that noise? I think that's it. Let's see. Boom, boom. There it is. Haha. I don't like that. So I'm going to option and arrow it down. Let's listen to how that sounds. I don't really love that either. Let's try a few more. Ooh, that might be interesting. Let's see. I'm not mad at that. Let's turn our loop back on and listen to the whole thing. All right. So that's our first custom drum track. We could spend time and do all sorts of things playing around with sound, but I want to make sure that we have time to move on to our other options. So let's mute this. Our next option is going to be great for beginners or people who are just brainstorming and having a bit of a creative block or something of the sort. Was I clicked my loop types. I recommend that you only do MIDI loops because they're going to be easier for you to customize, just like we observed with the session drummer. Once we changed that to MIDI, we were able to move the notes to a different sound. You could also add in notes once it's MIDI, so it just gives us a little bit more stuff to play with. So I've narrowed it down to my MIDI loops. Now I'm going to narrow it down even more by saying drum. And this is going to give me a whole list of them. I would like to organize them by tempo because when you drag and drop, which we're going to do in just a moment, some of the things that are going to sound really cool in the lower BPMs, if your tempo is at 120 like ours is, it's going to sound a little bit busy and rushed. And sometimes that might be what you want. So maybe experiment with that just for funsies. But for now, I want to do something that lives closer to our 120 BPM. So I just clicked that tempo and now they're organized and I'm going to play around in this area. There's quite a bit to choose from. We're going for a longer one. So let's try, and I'm going to know that by beats right here. Let's try Brazilian bossa drums. All right, so let's pretend that we like that and we drag that in. That's actually longer than I thought it was going to be. So maybe let's do a slightly shorter one. So I just edited, undid that. Let's do a shorter one. There we go. And then we can turn our 4 bars into 8 by copying and pasting. So let's listen to how that goes. All right, now I'm going to make this go away. We can change around our kit for this as well. So let's play around a bit. Let's see what it sounds like with a hip hop kit. So again, we can customize that by changing our kit. Feel free to add in if there's some notes that you'd like to hear, add them in. Add in some or take some stuff away. We can get really creative by sculpting out things that are pre-made to make them our own by simply copying and pasting, adding and subtracting. Let's go back up to our classic electric piano, which is our standard software instrument track that opens. And I'm going to go in here, which is this second button opens the window in the top left. I'm going to make this go away for a moment. We have a few ways to build drums in more of a MIDI type of fashion. We have our drum kit designer. Let's open that up first. That'll bring up a traditional analog drum set. You can go through and click these and customize each of these sounds to literally build your own kit. It's pretty cool. So that's one way that you can go through, and then what you would do is record your track like you would any other MIDI track. You would have to use either musical typing, which is Command K, to bring this up. Go down an octave. So as you can see, so you would record it that way. Or with your MIDI controller of choice, whichever you so choose. Now let's bring this back up. Let's say I want a synth sound. This is automatically going to come up as your heavy kick. Let's listen to what that sounds like. So Command K. So there we have Command K. A pitched kick synth. If you click here, you can also do the same thing with snares and claps. Customize that even more depending on what kind of snare you use. Human clap, that could be a fun one. Same thing for hats and cymbals. We can customize that. All of those are pitched. Percussion. Let's see, metal machine. That's a fun one. So we have all of those that we can use as well. And what I would recommend doing is creating a couple of different software instrument tracks and assigning each one a different piece of the electronic drum kit. And then you can record them individually, and then they'll be layered together to sound like one full drum track. You can even combine those tracks into a single one if you so choose to make it visually more pleasing, or put them in a track stack, whichever you prefer. Oh, Drum Machine Designer. This one is great. You can literally build this with whatever sounds you want. It literally says here, drag an audio sample to the pad, choose a kit piece patch in the library, or insert an instrumental plugin on the track's channel strip. Like, what? That is so freaking cool. There's so much we can do with that. Let's just do some randoms. Like, for example, this I could pull in there. So if I did that C1, so I'm just holding that down, I could change it to a one shot, splice it. Like, let's say I wanted it to be, crop the sample. Look at that. I can change the length of it to just 2 seconds. So every time I hit that C1, right, where it has that little thing at the end. So you probably wouldn't want to do that. But there's all kinds of things you can do. Okay, let's go to all loops and reflective tambourine. Why not? So on that E1, I can play them together, literally just holding down. Let me put my musical typing so you can see that a little bit easier. Command K, and let's go down our octave. So we would hold down A and D to play these two. So let's listen. Right? So we've done that with these loops that are already in there, but let's say we want to have an actual instrument in there. So let's see. Pitch samples. No, let's do, like, let's say we just want to do a kick from Twilight Drive. We can pull that. Oh, whoops, let's undo. We want to go here. And then do Twilight Drive. So now, I didn't want that to be skiffle drum set. I want this to be, let's go back. I didn't want that to be skiffle drum set. I want this to be, let's go back. I didn't want that, but let's do pop talking drum beat. Let's see what that sounds like. For musical typing, that would be ADY. Now let's record this, but first, let me mute this. I'm going to name this Planetary Coven's Kit. Whoops. Now look at all of this. We have so many that we can fill. You could have a field day with this. Let's do painted blue chorus drums because, you know, why not? So now we're hitting C1, E1, G sharp 1, and C2. Let's play those together. Well, the painted blue chorus drums doesn't quite work for that, but you get the general idea. So let's let's change that out. I want a sound like, ooh, what swirls of smoke? Ooh, with bells. Ooh, let's try that. Um, so let's record. I'm going to try that again with my loop on and with musical typing so you can see what I'm doing. So that would be A, D, Y, K. So let's try to record. All right, now let's fix this because it got a little bit delayed because we're recording over Zoom. So do you see how we created these layers of sound by just literally holding down letters on a keyboard, a typing keyboard, and then occasionally tapping a finger to add a bit of rhythmic color. So let's select all and quantize it, and let's listen back. The sky is truly the limit with this. So even though there are a bunch of pre-made sounds in here and loops, we were able to customize it and make it our own. So I really encourage you to play around and experiment a bit. If you're using something that's a plugin or something that's pre-made, like a session drummer, play around with the kit that you're using. Change it to MIDI and add and subtract some MIDI notes. Play around with the loops, search for those MIDI loops, add and delete, same thing. Really make them your own. Um, the sky is truly the limit. There's a lot of cool features in here. Um, like, for example, an arpeggiator, if you want to just literally hold, let's try that real quick. If I open a new track and go to Alchemy, which is a great instrument, it's very robust. You can build a whole song just using Alchemy, and I do. Um, our timer just went off, but that's okay. We're going to finish this anyway. Show this to you really quick. So if I go to arpeggiated or rhythmic, let's go to arpeggio song. I'm literally, let me do my musical typing. If I hold down K, we have a kick and a bass line already in there. What if we did kick, bass line, and bells? I mean, look at that. Let's record it. Now we could do that with just bass as well. Let me just really quickly quantize this. So let's say I wanted it to be just kick. Let me solo that so you can just hear that kick. Kick and bells. Kick bassline bells. Kick bassline offbeats. That might not be what you think of when you first think of a drum track, but even though there are pitch samples in there, it is rhythmic. So you can build a couple of layers of those, play around with pitch tracks and unpitched tracks, and see what happens. The world is truly your oyster with this stuff. So I encourage you to play around and see what clicks. Thank you for watching and learning Logic Pro X with me, Kelly from Planetary Coven. I really appreciate your support. If you found this video helpful, please like, hit that share button, follow. I drop a new video every Friday that's going to be a really digestible chunk of time and a new skill, hopefully, a few new skills for you to learn in Logic Pro X. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.